You were only 19 when your world collapsed quietly. It began with a pregnancy test, clutched in trembling hands in the cramped bathroom of your apartment. You stared at the two pink lines in disbelief, your breath caught somewhere between a scream and a prayer. The air felt too heavy, the silence too loud. The ceiling fan whirled above you, indifferent to the chaos in your chest. Damien, your husband of only 6 months, didn't take it as you hoped he would. You were sitting on the edge of your bed, staring at him as he paced the small apartment like the walls were closing in. I'm pregnant, you had said minutes earlier, your voice barely audible. Damien had gone still for a moment. He laughed, short, almost disbelieving, and rubbed the back of his neck. This can't be happening right now. You clutched your knees, your heart dropped. I took 3 tests. It's real. He turned sharply. You told me you were on pills. You blinked, stepping back like he had slapped you. I was. I didn't miss any. I don't know what happened. Maybe it failed. Sometimes it does. I didn't plan this either. Oh, so now it's just bad luck. He snapped, throwing his hands in the air. You get pregnant and expect me to what? Drop everything? Your voice cracked. I just thought you would at least care. Of course I care, but this is insane. I had plans, damn it. I was supposed to leave next month. My music, my career. It's finally starting to happen. I can't throw that away because of a mistake. You flinched like the word cut you. A mistake? You're calling our baby a mistake? He didn't answer. He just looked at you, angry, restless, panicked. You took a shaky step forward. We are married, Damien. We promised we would face things together. I didn't promise to give up everything I worked for. I married you because I loved you, not because I wanted to be a teenage dad stuck in a shoebox apartment, watching my dreams burn. Your voice dropped, barely a whisper. So what do I do? Just raise this baby alone? He exhaled and looked away. You'll figure it out. You always do. You looked at him with wide eyes, not believing he was actually saying those words. After all that, after marrying you. What? No, you don't get to say that and just leave. Please, Damien. Please don't do this to me. You reached for his hand, but he pulled away like your touch burned. I'm sorry, he muttered, grabbing his bag. I can't be who you want me to be. Your knees gave a little. I don't want perfect. I just want you. Please, just stay. Just stay and we'll figure it out. He hesitated at the door back, still facing you. If I stay, I'll hate you for making me give up everything. Is that what you want? You shook your head, lips trembling. I want you to fight for us. For me, for our baby. But the door opened and then it closed, and you stood in the silence that followed, the sound of your heartbeat louder than your sobs. Three days after Damien left, the apartment still smelled faintly like him. You hadn't touched the bed, hadn't eaten more than a few bites of rice, hadn't stopped staring at the door, half hoping, half fearing he would come back. But your body has started to betray you. Your chest felt heavy. You were dizzy most mornings, and now, even sitting up made the world spin. You knew you had to go, if not for yourself, then for the life inside you. You sat on the edge of the examination table, fingers locked tightly on your lap, trying not to cry as the nurse gently asked you a few questions. Yes, I had a positive pregnancy test, you murmured. Any nausea, fatigue, usual dizziness? She asked. You nodded, swallowing hard. A lot of that, yeah. She smiled gently. We'll run a few more tests, okay? Just lie back for now. But as she turned around, your vision went dark, white noise filled your ears, and your body slumped. The room was cold, too clean, too white, like grief in disguise. You blinked, awake slowly, your body aching, throat dry. The fluorescent light above you hummed, and machines beeped softly at your side. You were in a hospital room. The last thing you remembered was sitting on the examination table, nausea, dizziness, then black. Now a man in a white coat stood at the foot of your bed, arms crossed, clipboard in hand. His dark hair fell slightly over his brows, and his gaze, intense and readable, met yours the moment your eyes opened. You're awake. You tried to sit up. He raised a hand gently. Don't move too fast. You fainted during your appointment. You blinked at him, dazed. I came in for a pregnancy check. He nodded once. We ran some emergency tests and found some things we weren't expecting. He walked closer, pulling a stool to sit beside your bed. I'm Dr. John Junguk, your attending physician. He hesitated before continuing. The baby seems stable for now, but your test results raise some concern. Your white blood cell count is extremely high. We suspect leukemia. It felt like the floor was ripped out from beneath you. You didn't even breathe. I don't understand. You whispered. I just came here because I thought I might be pregnant. Not this. I'm only 19. He looked at you quietly, then finally asked, Can we call your parents? You shook your head. I don't have any. I grew up in foster care. There's no one. There was silence, a long silence. You could feel it, the shift. You knew what that look in his eyes meant, like he didn't know what to do with this. A 19-year-old girl, pregnant, alone, possibly dying. No one? You nodded, your voice cracked. My husband left when I told him I was pregnant. Said I would figure it out, like I always do. He stared at you for a long time, not with pity, not with judgment, but with something quieter, softer. You're not going to go through this alone, not anymore. You blinked confused. What? You don't have money for long-term treatment, do you? You hesitated, then whispered, No. He didn't even flinch. I'll take care of it. Your breath caught. Why would you? Because someone should, and I can. He glanced at your chart again. We'll start treatment slowly, so it doesn't harm the pregnancy, but you'll need to be closely monitored. Your throat tightened. I can't pay for the treatment. He looked at you then properly. His voice was quiet but firm. Don't worry about that right now. Just focus on living. And for the first time in days, maybe weeks, your heart stirred. Because for once, someone wasn't walking away. You didn't know why he was helping a stranger, but you realized not everyone is heartless. Hours passed. The hospital room was quiet, too quiet. The hum of the IV drip was the only sound keeping you company. The white walls felt like they were pressing in, heavy with silence. You hadn't cried all day, not when the nurse told you they would begin treatment soon, not when they brought in bland soup you couldn't stomach, not even when they handed you a consent form to begin low dose chemo. But now it was past midnight and you were alone. You sat on the edge of your hospital bed, knees pulled to your chest, face buried in your arms. You didn't sob, you didn't wail. You just shook, trying to keep everything in until a gentle knock came at the door. Are you awake? Your head shot up, eyes swollen, but you quickly wiped at them. Yeah. He opened the door slowly, dressed in navy blue scrubs. His hair was slightly messy, like he had been going non-stop. You didn't expect him this late. I was checking the last rounds. Thought I would see how you were doing. He looked down embarrassed. I'm okay. He stepped in slowly, not pushing, not forcing you to speak, just being there. His eyes scanned your face and you knew you couldn't hide it from him. You have been crying? You chuckled weakly. How do you always know? Because I have been where you are before. Different pain, same silence. You bit your bottom lip. Why are you being so kind to me? He looked at you, almost surprised, because I can't just close my eyes and let you suffer. That's not why I became a doctor. You swallowed hard and the words tumbled out before you could stop them. I begged him not to leave, told him I was scared, that I couldn't do this alone, but he still walked away, like I didn't matter, like our child didn't matter. Why are some people kind to even strangers and some become heartless to their own? The dam finally broke, the tears came silently rolling down your cheeks in hot, aching streams. You didn't try to wipe them. What was the point? You had held it in for so long, for the sake of strength, for dignity, for the child inside you that was already learning the world wasn't fair. Junguk didn't rush in with cliches or empty comforts. He just stood there beside your bed, quiet, present. After a moment, he pulled the chair closer and said, his voice low, almost like a confession. Some people run because they are afraid of becoming who they are supposed to be, and some people stay because they have already learned how it feels to be left behind. You looked up at him, eyes blurry. You don't even know me. He met your gaze steadily. I don't have to know you to see you are drowning. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, voice softer now. You came in alone, terrified, sick, pregnant. And still you fought through every test, every answer, every unanswered phone call. That's not weakness, that's survival. You bit your lip, overwhelmed, but I don't have anything to offer in return. There was a pause. I'm not doing this because I expect something back. I'm doing this because someone once helped me when I was on the floor, and I promised myself if I ever saw someone in that same place, I wouldn't look away. The room went quiet again, but this time it wasn't heavy, it felt calm, warm even. And for the first time in so long, you let yourself believe that maybe not everyone would abandon you, that maybe you didn't have to carry it all alone anymore. That maybe this stranger in scrubs was the beginning of something you never thought you would get again, a second chance. You were shifted to a private room. The hospital room smelled of antiseptic and sterilized air, everything cold, clinical. But beneath the white lights, beneath the buzzing of monitors, there was something else, something fragile. It was week 4, the chemotherapy had already started to take its toll. You had barely seen daylight for days, lost in a haze of pain and nausea. Your hands were trembling from the constant needles and IV lines, your skin pale, and your energy was drained completely. You had always been a fighter, but now you were fighting for something more precious, your unborn child. But fighting alone, that was a different kind of battle. You remember the first night Jungkook stayed late. You hadn't asked him to, but he was there, always there, even when you felt you couldn't hold on much longer. Jungkook was sitting by your bed looking over your charts. You hadn't said a word to him in hours, your body too weak to keep up with conversation, but he stayed, not pushing you, just silently watching over you. The soft click of his pen as he jotted down notes was the only sound in the room. It wasn't until the nausea hit again, too hard this time, that he noticed. You gripped the sides of the bed, your face contorted in pain, and he was there in an instant, his hand on your shoulder, his voice calm yet firm. Breathe, I'm here, let it pass. He guided you through the pain, rubbing your back in gentle circle, his presence steadying you. You felt the heat of his hand on your skin, warm and grounding, like a teether to reality. I don't think I can do this anymore. You sounded so weak, his gaze softened, and there was something in his eyes that you hadn't seen before. He didn't respond with empty platitudes or promises he couldn't keep. He simply stayed, never leaving your side. You don't have to do it alone, not while I'm here. It was such a simple statement, yet it wrapped around your heart like a lifeline, making the weight of your fears feel just a little bit lighter. You wanted to protest, to tell him it wasn't his responsibility, but how could you when everything he was doing for you felt like something far beyond duty? The days bled into each other. Every morning, Jungkook would check in on you, his expression professional, but there was an undeniable tenderness in his eyes. He watched your progress, fluctuations of your vitals, and the subtle sign that showed you were both holding on and barely hanging by a thread. As the days turned to weeks, something shifted between you. You had always been independent, self sufficient. You never relied on anyone, not really, but now, with Jungkook quietly pulling you through the hardest days of your life, a bond began to form, not out of obligation, not out of pity, but out of sheer raw necessity for both of you. You began to trust him more, rely on him in ways you never thought possible. When the pain from the chemo got unbearable, when you couldn't stop the vomiting or the chills, it was always Jungkook who stayed by your side, wiping your forehead with a damp cloth, brushing your hair away from your face. Week 8, you could feel the change in your body, slower, more subtle, but there the nausea had started to lessen, and the doctor had told you that your white blood cells count was beginning to stabilize. But that wasn't the only thing that was different. You felt a lightness you hadn't felt in months, and you realized it wasn't just the treatment that was making you feel better. It was Jungkook, his presence, his kindness, the way he made you feel like maybe you weren't as alone as you thought. One evening, after a long day of treatments, you were lying in bed, staring at the ceiling. You weren't sure what brought it on. Maybe it was the quiet, or maybe it was the way he had stayed by your side, despite everything. But suddenly you found yourself speaking. Why are you still here? Jungkook, who had been sitting at the edge of the bed, glanced at you, furrowing his brow slightly. What do you mean? You turn your head to look at him, searching his eyes for something that made sense of all this. You could have walked away by now. I'm just a patient. I'm sick and I'm pregnant. I have never felt so broken in my life. But you're still here. Why? There was a long pause. Jungkook didn't say anything at first. His eyes studied you like he was piecing something together. And then when he spoke, his voice was quiet and steady. Because I have seen what you have been through. And I don't think anyone deserves to go through this alone. Not you, not anyone, and especially not someone who still has so much to give. The room was silent for a moment. His words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. That night, for the first time, you allowed yourself to lean on someone, not just physically but emotionally too. You let yourself be cared for, not out of pity, but because for the first time in your life, you realize sometimes you don't have to carry the weight of the world alone. Sometimes it's okay to let someone else share it with you. As the days passed, your health continued to improve, your baby grew stronger inside you, and with every passing moment, you found yourself drawing closer to the man who had shown you day after day what it meant to be truly loved. Your doctor, your protector, and now maybe even something more. It was week 12 of your treatment, the last of the intense chemotherapy sessions. You had endured the worst, and your body was finally beginning to heal. You were far from being fully restored, but the progress was undeniable. The sickness that had clung to you like a shadow was retreating, and the baby inside you was stronger, its heartbeat steady and reassuring. Jungkook had always been there, every day supporting you through the darkest hours. His role as your doctor had slowly faded into something more, a man who had become a constant part of your life. And now here you were, nearly 5 months pregnant, feeling the faintest flutter of life within you. You should eat something. You're starting to look like you could disappear into thin air. He teased. You smiled back, though it was a bit strained, still not used to being taken care of, even after all this time. But you did eat because you knew he was right. I've come a long way, haven't I? You said, taking a bite while he sat beside you. You have, but don't get ahead of yourself. You still need to rest. You have got a little one to take care of now. He brushed a lock of hair away from your forehead, his touch gentle but tender, the same way he had done when you were too weak to move. You stared at him, his warmth, his dedication. There was so much more behind his actions than just duty. His eyes had softened, But they were no longer just professional like the doctor patient relationship they once were. You had been thinking about it for a while, and maybe it was the medicine, the fatigue, or just the fact that you had been relying on him so much, but it was becoming harder to ignore the pull you felt towards him. Why do you do this, Jungkook? He looked at you, his gaze steady as though he had been waiting for this moment. Because I care, because you are not just a patient to me. You have become more than that. There it was, the unspoken truth. You weren't sure if it was a confession or just the admission of something that had been building for months, but you could feel it in his words. He stood and went to the window, his back to you, the soft glow of the evening light illuminating his figure. I'm not going to leave you, Ryan. Not now, not ever. I want to be here for you, for our child. I want us to build something, a family. Your heart raced as the weight of his words settled over you. This wasn't just about the baby, it was about him, choosing to be with you despite everything. When you were finally discharged after weeks of treatment, you left the sterile walls of the hospital with a new sense of freedom. But with that freedom came a new reality. You were no longer alone. Jungkook had made it clear that he was committed to being by your side, and you knew without a doubt that he meant it. Jungkook helped you into the car, the soft smile he always wore, now tempered by something deeper, something more genuine. You could see it in his eyes. He was nervous, despite his calm exterior, as if he was waiting for something, waiting for you to say something. The car ride home felt longer than usual. The words he wanted to say hovered between you, unsaid, but you both knew they were coming. You finally spoke, breaking the silence. Jungkook, you have already done so much. I don't know how to thank you. You have saved my life. He glanced over at you, his eyes softening as he reached out, his fingers brushing over your hand. You don't have to thank me. You never had to do this alone, and you still don't. His words, quiet but firm, hung in the air as the car slowed down in front of your apartment. You both stepped out, and Jungkook took your hand again, but this time it wasn't just about support, it felt like a promise. I want you to stay with me, not just because of the baby, but because I love you. I have for a long time. Let me be the father of your child, and let me be with you. Let me be the man who stands by your side. Let me be your husband. His confession came so suddenly, but it was raw, honest, and true. There was no hesitation in his voice, no doubt in his eyes. You didn't know how to respond at first. You hadn't expected this, but in the quiet moments, the moments he had been there for you, something had shifted. You had never allowed yourself to dream of this kind of love, but now that it was standing in front of you, you realized it was the one thing you needed. You didn't answer immediately, but you squeezed his hand. I don't know if I deserve someone like you, but I don't want to be alone anymore either. I want you to stay for me, for the baby. Jungkook didn't say anything else. Instead, he pulled you into a hug that promised more than words ever could. In that moment, you knew that your life was about to change forever, and for the first time in what felt like forever, you allowed yourself to believe in the possibility of happiness with Jungkook and with your child. Months later, as your pregnancy entered its final stretch, the world around you had shifted. Jungkook was there every step of the way, and your bond had deepened into something irreplaceable. But one day, just as your due date approached, the past came knocking. You received a message from Damian. It had been months since you had last heard from him. He had been quiet, almost as though he had vanished after leaving you when you needed him most, but now he wanted to talk, and you knew despite everything he wasn't asking for a second chance. When you met with Damien, it was clear that he had changed. His eyes were tired, his posture defensive. He seemed desperate, but there was something else, guilt, the same guilt that had plagued you for months. I made a mistake. I wasn't ready for this, but I want to be there for the child. I want to make things right. You listened, but there was no part of you that felt that pull anymore. You had moved on, and Jungkook had become more than a stand-in. He had become your family. I'm sorry, Damian, but you can never become a part of us again. I have moved on. Jungkook is my family now, and the child is his son. In every way that matters, he doesn't need you. As you turned to leave, you felt a weight lift off your chest. Jungkook was your present and your future, and when your son born, his first words would be Dad, and it would be Jungkook who held him in his arms, not because of blood, but because of love, and in the end, that was enough.